Let's start from the beginning. I liked her, really liked her. The kind of crush that made my throat close up when she said my name. The kind that lived quietly in the back of my chest and never asked for anything. I imagined harmless things, walking home together, sharing earbuds, the accidental brush of hands that would keep me awake at night. Normal, clean, safe. She sat 2 rows in front of me in class. I watched the way her shoulders moved when she laughed, the way she chewed on her pen when she was thinking. I remember thinking she smelled like soap and paper and something faintly sweet when she leaned close. It was all so normal, until it wasn't. She raised her hand to answer a question and stopped mid-sentence. Her face went pale. Not ghost pale, but sick pale. Her eyes unfocused. She blinked once, confused, and then her hand went to her nose. Blood poured out. Not a trickle, not a polite little streak you wipe away with a tissue. It poured, thick and dark, spilling over her fingers like it had been waiting for permission. It ran down her lip, slid into the corner of her mouth, dripped off her chin and onto her desk in slow, heavy drops. The sound of it hitting the floor is what I remember most. Soft, wet, wrong. She gasped, choking, and more came out. Warm, relentless, pulsing with her heartbeat. Someone screamed. The teacher shouted. Chairs scraped back as kids recoiled. I didn't. I leaned forward. I watched the way it moved, the way it followed the shape of her face, how it clung to her skin before letting go. I noticed the color shift, bright at first, then darker as it thickened. I noticed how her hands shook as she tried to stop it, how the blood coated her fingers, soaked into her sleeves, smeared across her desk like paint applied with panic. And something inside me opened. I felt it before I understood it, a warmth spreading through my chest, a deep, grounding calm, like I had finally found the right frequency. My heart slowed instead of racing. My breath steadied. The noise of the room faded until there was only her and the flow. I wasn't scared. I wasn't worried. I was better. That's the part people don't want to hear. That's the part I try to explain and never can. I didn't want her hurt. I didn't want her to die. I just wanted to watch, to understand, to memorize the way something so hidden could become so honest. Blood doesn't lie. They rushed her out eventually. Paramedics, paper towels, a trail of red footprints leading down the hall like breadcrumbs. The class emptied, buzzing and shaken. I stayed seated. My hands were shaking now, not with fear, but with absence, like something had been taken away from me too soon. My skin felt tight, stretched, wrong. I kept seeing it when I closed my eyes, the way it moved, the way it listened to gravity, the way it made everything else in the room feel fake. That was the first time I understood there was something inside me that didn't belong anywhere else. I went home and locked myself in the bathroom and stared at my face in the mirror, searching for signs. I pressed my fingers against my nose until it hurt, until my eyes watered, until I almost broke skin. I needed to see it again, needed to feel that calm settle back into place. When my nose finally bled, just a little, it wasn't enough. It was never enough after that. And that's how it started. Not with violence, not with cruelty, but with a crush, with concern, with something beautiful breaking open in front of me and showing me who I really was. You can say I'm sick, but you can't say I chose it. After that, I learned how to wait. I learned how to watch her without being obvious, how to care in ways that looked appropriate. I walked her to the nurse when it happened again. I held doors. I offered tissues before she even realized she needed them. People said I was kind, attentive. They said she was lucky to have someone like me around when her nose acted up. They didn't know how much I was listening. Every time it happened, it was different. Sometimes it was sudden, violent, blood breaking free like it had been trapped. Sometimes it was slower, creeping, a dark line forming just under her nose before she noticed. Those were my favorite moments, not because they were dramatic, but because they were quiet, intimate, just the two of us noticing it at the same time. I worried about her,
Genuinely. I read about nosebleeds, dry air, stress, capillaries. I memorized symptoms and causes so no one could ever say I didn't care. I paid attention to her breathing, the color of her skin, the way she tilted her head back like she'd been taught. But no matter how much I learned, no explanation ever felt big enough, because none of them explained why my blood didn't do the same thing to me. I tried, of course I tried. In private, carefully, telling myself it was only curiosity. I watched it bead, watched it smear, watched it drip into the sink, but it was wrong. Flat. Lifeless. It didn't move with intention. It didn't speak. Hers did. For 6 months, that was enough. Watching, waiting, being near her when it happened naturally. 6 months of telling myself this was just concern twisted by circumstance. 6 months of believing love could look like this and still be love. But 6 months is a long time to live inside a memory. The bleeds became less frequent, or maybe I just noticed their absence more. The calm didn't come as easily anymore. The world stayed loud. My chest stayed tight. I found myself staring at her mouth when she talked, at the place where the blood used to gather, imagining it there again. I told myself I missed her being okay. I told myself I was afraid something was wrong. That's how it always starts, with good intentions that feel reasonable if you don't look at them too closely. The first time I tried to help recreate it, I was gentle, careful. I thought if I was precise enough, if I stayed calm enough, it would be just like before. Just enough. Just a reminder. Just a return to the beginning. I was wrong. I didn't mean to hurt her. I didn't mean it to go the way it did. I was trying to bring her back to that moment where everything made sense, where our hearts felt synchronized, where the world quieted around us. When the blood came this time, it came too fast, too much. It didn't listen the way it used to. Her fear changed it. Panic broke the rhythm. I remember realizing somewhere too late that this wasn't the same anymore. They say she died. I don't. She isn't dead. She just isn't with us anymore. I could still feel her afterward, not in my hands, but in my chest. A presence, a steadiness, like she had moved somewhere closer to where I had always been reaching. When everyone else cried and screamed and asked why, I felt quiet, held, certain. She understood. She knew I loved her, and she knew I couldn't stop, not because I wanted to hurt anyone, but because stopping would mean losing her again, because she was the only one who ever made me feel whole, and pieces of her still existed in the flow, in the way blood moves when it's honest. Other people came later, not replacements, never that, just attempts to hear her more clearly. I don't enjoy what comes after. I endure it. I compare every drop, every movement, every moment of calm to the way it felt with her, and none of them ever measure up. But sometimes, when it's close, when the world goes quiet again, I swear I can feel her with me, and I know she wants me to continue.